I feel like we've been connected on Instagram. So, you can't say all social is bad because I've met some really amazing people there. Nice to see you, Monica.
Nice to see you. I feel like I know you really well. I feel like we've been on vacation together.
I love that. In fact, I might invite you next time and you'll pop up on my feed. I feel like there's this group of women that are going, you know what? I have been quiet for a while and now I'm going to really start talking. And it's happening kind of around I hate the word midlife, but it is midlife. And, it's the middle of where we are in this world. And you are one of the voices out there that has really stood out to me. And I'm excited to tell your story. The name of the podcast is coming up next because I'm always looking for people that have this next thing going on in their lives, whether it's career or whether it's a health project or whether it's how they're bettering themselves. But yours is all about kind of waking up an entire industry and making sure they know that we exist as Gen X women and as midlife. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I launched Pretty Ripe a couple of years ago because as a former journalist and still somewhat of a journalist, I saw that magazines were just not writing about women after the age of 40, 45. And when I approached my editors, who I loved, and said, here's a story about a career pivot, here's a story about women getting hormonal, they said, Monica, that's a great idea, but our advertisers feel like our readership taps out at 40. And I was like, well, where the hell are women supposed to go? This is it's like a pivotal time for women. Women really need content. It's a critical time for women. And so I launched Pretty Ripe from my sofa. I don't even know if I was wearing pants. I just put this newsletter out there into the world. And in essence, Tamsen, I just wrote about what I wanted to hear about, what I wanted to open a magazine and read about. What foundation works for me, for my skin after the age of 40? Like, how can I support women in midlife? Should I be lifting weights or doing cardio? Questions like that are really specific and profoundly affect women's health and the way they feel. So that's how I launched Pretty Ripe. And so many women came back to me and said, this is the content or these are the stories I've been looking for and I haven't been able to find them. So I'm very happy to see that now more and more magazines are actually covering this time in women. And I think they're just starting to recognize what a powerful demographic we are.
It really is. But it's not always been. And there are a lot of, media organizations and or Hollywood that have not noticed that until just recently. But your voice and your writing has broken through at the age of 52 years old? You sold your first screenplay?
I did. I sold a pitch to Netflix.
That's amazing.
Thank you. And I have to say, it's about midlife women. It's the story of two women, 45, 50, who go on a wellness retreat together and end up swapping bodies with Gen Z influencers. So you've got these midlife women now are suddenly influencers. They have to create content for Instagram and TikTok. And you can just imagine how it goes. But when I walked into Netflix with my writing partner on that project, Jordan Roeder-Stodel, we both talked about generations coming together. We talked about how the media keeps pushing this story of okay boomer, but really there is so much commonality among women. And that's what sold the story. It was middle-aged women and Gen Zers, 20-somethings, can find common ground and become allies and share and teach each other wisdom. And I gotta say, I've learned many things from 20-somethings. I do not discount the younger generation. And I think that's the way to forge these bonds in the workplace or with your kids. Just know that they have as much wisdom as you do. It's just different.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, I don't think I would be as vocal and or as raw now if I weren't watching those other generations, people that are younger than me being as bold as they are. Like, I think that in so many ways, they've made me come out of my comfort zone or of my shell or of my boundaries or things that my should haves, right? My, should be prepared all the time, should not be so honest about certain things, should maybe hide problems. I don't think I'd ever talked about the fact that I'm going through menopause on camera to people. Like I don't think I even wanted to use the word midlife. So right. I agree with you about that intergenerational collaboration and community, more less collaboration. Everything's collaboration, more community. I think that's really what it's all about. Because there's a lot I still have to learn. Actually,
I absolutely agree. And people have said, could you imagine if Lena Dunham and the women on the show Girls on HBO had been going through perimenopause. Like, that would have been a storyline every week because they are more vocal. I mean, look at how the whole period industry has changed profoundly, and just like feminine care, it's incredible. So it will be really interesting to see. We're creating, we're taking away the stigma of menopause now, right? Our generation, but it's going to be really interesting to see what the next generation, how they handle it, how it becomes a public platform.
I agree. Maybe there'll be a cure. No, maybe they won't have it. A lot of them are investing, dollars and research into different companies to try to, to figure out, how to deal with it. And I think that that's encouraging when I hear 30-something-year-olds opening up companies, to try to deal with female wellness and sexual wellness. I think it's incredible. Okay, back to you, because you recently had some more good news. So first you had the screenplay, right, that you sold to Netflix, and now you are breaking into the world of television.
I am.
Can you talk a little bit about what has happened recently to you?
Absolutely. I sold a television show to the actress Mandy Moore and 20th Television, called a television show called My Mom Has No Friends. And it's based on an article that I wrote for New York Magazine, which is based on my real life. And I'll give you the quick story. My mom moved to Los Angeles, where I live, at the age of 80 during the height of the pandemic, about a year and a half ago. So she moves here. There's no way she's going to meet anyone. First, she was living in an independent living facility. She was too much of a hippie for that. So she bought her condo, which is nearby to where I live. But I didn't know many 80-year-olds to introduce her to. And I could see that this was a woman who had friends throughout her life. Always would have the party, would spontaneously have 30 people over and entertain. I could see her light really dimming because she was lonely, and she couldn't share her opinion. She's from Brooklyn. She's very opinionated. And so I put a post on Nextdoor that in essence said, my mom has no friends, but it's not her fault. And I described her, and it was almost like a classified ad, right? But for women, not for men. I wasn't looking for a date. And the response was overwhelming. Over 300 people responded. 20-somethings wanted to take my mom to a Dodger game. 75 and 80-year-olds wanted to meet her. And so we had an event in LA, and she made, I would say, 6 friends from that event. And my mom went to a jazz club last week and had 3 martinis.
Oh my gosh.
She told me 2, and then the next day she said actually it was 3. She just has such a vibrant social life. So this TV show is about a woman in midlife whose mom at the age of 75, 80 comes to live with her while she's raising a teenager. So she really is stuck in the middle, part of that sandwich generation. And what's your worst nightmare for your child? That she or he gets in with the wrong crowd. Yeah. Well, that happens with my mom in this story, while my daughter on the show also gets in with the wrong crowd, and they start colluding against me. So one of the other themes is, how do you become friends with your family? Yes. We look at our family, we have them in a position, right? And that's the dynamic, the family dynamic. But as you get older, if you can change your relationship with your parents and look at them as people and not your parents, and not have the expectations that we have of parents or family, it just really frees you up to have a very different and more dynamic relationship.
I couldn't agree more. You talk about freeing up. I feel like at this stage I am bit by bit, it didn't just happen overnight, but I just feel like I am a little more free of BS and a little more free of the things that don't serve me, so I can be a little more creative for the things that I want to do. Do you think that's how you came to a place? I mean, you've written your whole life, obviously. You've been a storyteller your whole life. But do you think that's how you came to a place at 52 years old to do something that most people can only dream of, which is selling a screenplay, then writing a television? I mean, those are things that people say, like, this is what I want to do, and they move to Hollywood at 20 years old, and they try for years to do it, and it feels like you had your creativity freed up to be able to take an honest assessment and write about it.
You absolutely nailed it. I think I've come to a place in life where I'm confident in the stories I want to tell, and like everyone says, I just care less about what other people think. So I can walk into a room and pitch a story and not worry how it's going to be received. Of course, I want someone to buy it, but at the same time, I know that it's an important story to tell whether that person sees value or not. And I want to bring up just the fact that walking into meetings in Hollywood at first, I felt like maybe a little bit my age was a liability, but also the fact that I didn't have a background in screenwriting. I had a background as a journalist. And what I came to realize was that all these executives were really excited about how much I knew about different fields as a journalist, which you completely understand. You know, you embed in a certain culture for a couple of weeks, you know enough to write a movie about it in a way. But then you move on to something else.
Yeah,
I've worked in the beauty
course.
industry. I've covered fashion. I've written about wellness. So they were really interested in the subcultures that I delved into. So what I thought was my liability was actually my asset. And that, in addition to my age, Hollywood really wants to speak to women and men in midlife. They're realizing that this is such an important demo. Gen Xers outspend millennials and baby boomers on entertainment, not to mention fashion and retail as well.
Yep. So many other things, absolutely. And their voice is getting bigger and bigger in all different areas. And I love seeing that because, you know, it does have to be embraced in media, in all different forms of media. It has to be to normalize and to be relevant, whether you're talking about middle age, whether you're talking about, all the aspects of it, and whether or not you're talking about even beyond that. You know, I know Hollywood's done things that are kind of like funny about people that are older and funny that are people that are younger. And then we just kind of sit in the middle. There was this book called Life Reimagined, and it talked about the fact that there was this big study done, and there was nothing done on people right in the middle, like this middle-aged people. They never had any kind of studies done. There were studies done on people that were older, octogenarians, people that were younger, and never us, or never people that were in a midlife area. So I think that everyone's playing catch up at this point, and rightfully so. But to be able to have somebody like you walk in the room with the knowledge of living it, I think is a tremendous asset to them to have that voice and have that neutrality of a voice too, you know, because you're not coming from one industry, you're really coming from many.
Thank you. And I encourage women out there, you know, embrace your age and your experience and the wisdom you bring, because marketers as well as media are really waking up to the fact that this demo is so powerful, and it is your asset. The fact that you know these stories, you know how women and men feel. It's really relevant right now. And the more vocal you are about it and the more you get involved, it's like, I had this discussion with someone recently about how do you approach telling someone your age? You know, do you say it really quietly and hunch your shoulders? Do you just announce it? Do you say it like it's anything else? Like, your favorite color is blue, I'm 55. It really is all about how you frame where you're at in your life and how you feel about it. You know that more than anyone.
It's so true. It is so true. But I think we've gotten a little more brave about it. And I don't feel, I feel like there is that, you know, thing that we said, like, women our age feel invisible, but I'm not feeling invisible.
Absolutely.
Do you feel, you can't feel invisible. And so I want to remove some of those narratives too out of this space, you know?
I absolutely agree. And I have to say, I've never felt more visible. And I'm working on a story for New York Magazine about that right now. Just this whole invisibility myth. And I think it is a myth, much like there was a study recently that showed that women over 40, your metabolism does not drop. But we're all told that. So when we start to feel sluggish or we put on weight or we feel lethargic, oh, it's because my metabolism dropped. Again, that's a myth. And when you realize that there's science that disproves it, just like we can disprove the fact that we're invisible. It frames the narrative of how you present yourself. So if you think you're invisible, you're probably going to, you know, not be as outgoing as you can be and you should be. So I agree. I think it's a myth, and I think it's perpetuated, and it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Again, if you feel a certain way, you're going to act a certain way. 100%. Women over 40 are having great sex. That's another study that's been borne out. So all of these little narratives that add up to women being invisible and fading into the background are being disproven. So we just need to say we're not invisible.